shoot, I gotta get to work. Like a lot of folks, I work from home, especially now, but getting the right arrangement here has been a journey. I started here at the dining room table, and that worked okay, except I had to schlep out all my gear every morning and then put it away every afternoon, which in addition to my laptop, I have external monitor, I've got all sorts of connection boxes and stuff, a lot of wear and tear on that. So I wanted a portable, compact desk that I can wheel out when I'm working and then wheel it away when I'm done at the end of the day. And I couldn't find anything that really fit the bill. Closest I found was something called it's like an AV cart, it's a presentation cart. So it has an upper shelf for a monitor and a lower shelf for a keyboard or a laptop, but they never had them so that you could slide the two together and make a really narrow profile. So I came up with my own design. I am no woodworker, and I used scrap lumber and minimal investment in hardware, and it came together pretty easy. So I didn't document it as well as I should have because I wasn't sure how it was going to turn out. So I'm going to try and retroactively show y'all how I put it together, so maybe you can get some ideas on how to build your own. Bare minimum, you're going to need a drill and a saw. I used a table saw, but you can use a circular saw or even a jigsaw. Not required, but will make your life a lot easier, a speed square and a level, and if you want to get fancy, a pocket hole jig. For the lumber, I just used what I had, which was 1x2s for the vertical supports and then 2x2s for the horizontal supports. I also had a little bit of plywood that I could use for the surfaces. For hardware, I just got these drawer slides from Home Depot. If you want your keyboard tray fixed in place, you can skip this entirely. Rather than buy casters individually, it was cheaper to buy this dolly from Harbor Freight and remove them and reuse them. However, they are loud. Also, if you want ones that lock, you might want to spend a little bit more money and buy them. Before construction even begins, you have to take a lot of measurements if you want to get this right. Number one, the height from the floor to the middle of your monitor. You gotta figure that out. And then you have to subtract about half of your monitor height and also the height of your casters. And that'll give you this measurement. Now for width, it's gonna depend on how big your laptop or keyboard is. And also consider any additional room for, say, a cup of coffee, or if you like to eat at your desk, room for that. So I left enough room for my coffee cup, and that's it. The upper part doesn't matter as much as long as it's big enough for the foot of your monitor. And the depth, same thing. About as big as long as my laptop is, when it's open, that there's enough margin all the way around. Same with this. This is the same depth as the foot of my monitor. I added a little bit on the base just for stability, but it's just a random number. I think I just did it according to how big my lumber was. I added 4 inches front and back. When you get to adding the keyboard tray, you're also going to need to figure that perfect right angle so it's ergonomic. So I did that and then subtracted that from the top. Basically, it's a series of rectangles. I started with the sides. So this piece is held together with this, and inside this box there's another one just like it, and then this is the other support, and this is the other side. So one rectangle. We need a rectangle for each side, and that starts with 4 uprights that are all exactly the same length. And this is the measurement you took from the top of the caster to the bottom of your monitor. To hold them together, we just put the short pieces for the monitor stand at the top, and then a long piece at the bottom for the base. On the front side, I didn't love the squares sticking out there, so I did give them a little bevel so they're less obvious, and painted them. Next, attach the support arms for the keyboard tray. Followed by the plywood for the monitor stand. You could be fancy here and use your pocket hole jig to attach it from the bottom, or just screw it down from the top. Then very gently flip the whole thing over and do the same thing for the plywood for the bottom. While it's upside down, now is a good time to add the optional accessory shelf if you decide to put that there. A little shelf here for this box, which I never know what it's called, but basically it powers the monitor. This is just a half depth little piece of plywood, and I screwed it that way. I just flipped the whole thing upside down and ran it that way. Now very gently flip it right side up again, and if you decide to box in the base, now would be the time to do that. I hated seeing this exposed, so I ended up boxing it in. I just added this front piece and this top piece. It just looks a little cleaner. Doesn't serve any function. This is the structure, this is the structure, and this is the structure. Now it's time to install your drawer slides and build your keyboard tray. Make sure those slides are level front to back and exactly the same height. Once that's done, you can go ahead and put the casters on. You could have done this when it was flipped over before, but I found it easier to work with putting the slides in when it was immobile. The casters I got from a moving dolly from Harbor Freight for 10 bucks. It was cheaper than buying casters individually. I did have to rummage around for some shorter screws to attach those to the base. The keyboard tray was probably one of the trickiest parts. I hate putting these things in, but I really can't beat the action right now. Most time you see these mounted to the sides. I inset it with these arms a little bit, just so it'll be more narrow. I did do one fancy joint here. I learned how to do pocket screws, so that is what is connecting the top here, but you could just plunk them right in the top. That's what I did up here. I had to spend some time moving those support arms underneath the shelf a few times just to make sure that they weren't too close to the rails or too far away from the rails, and that they're at the right angle. But we got there eventually. Also check repeatedly to make sure that your tray is level front to back and side to side. Once it was complete, I applied some leftover paint and wood finish that we had on hand. A little tubing for some wire management. This is irrigation tubing. 2 pieces, that's all I had left. The power strip is screwed on there. All in all, this project took about a day and cost $22. And I couldn't be more pleased with how it turned out. It has certainly made my commute, let's say, a lot better, and my working day a lot more enjoyable.